Hello and welcome, my name is Akira and this is A Blessed Nation, my newest Let's Play series for Europa Universalis IV, where we are gonna be playing as Ethiopia. And before I go any further in this video, I'm just gonna warn you that there will be no gameplay in this first intro video. If you wanna skip this part where I just talk about what I want to do, you just go ahead to the next video. Will be uploaded at the same time as this one. But for the ones that are staying, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about what I want to do in this campaign and kind of what my initial strategies are anyway. So as you may know, if you know the new achievements that were added in the game, the name of the series is after one of the new achievements in the 1.18 expansion or patch called A Blessed Nation, and that's based around the new mechanics for the Coptic nations that were added in this expansion. So let's take a look at that. So the Coptic religion were updated, and it's now based around holy sites. As you can see, because we're starting as Ethiopia, we're already controlling Aksum, which is the home of the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. And it's also a Coptic, which means that there's this little Coptic symbol out here that's gone grey instead of brown, meaning that we now have one patriarchal blessing. There are 5 of these, as you can see. There are also the Coptic Church in Alexandria, there is the Cradle of Christianity in Antioch, there is the Qasar Ibrim in, an ancient city of Qasar Ibrim, which is also a center of Christianity, and there are the Ichmizin Cathedral in Yerevan. And all of these are holy sites of the Coptic faith. If we control, or if this is controlled by a Coptic nation and is also of the Coptic religion, then we will get a Coptic or a patriarchal blessing. And the achievement is to get all 5 of these. So we don't necessarily have to control all 5. We just have to have them controlled by a Coptic nation and be Coptic. So in theory we could create client state or force the owners of them to change to our religion, but we are of course just gonna take them all over. This was also be possible with other Coptic nations, of course, but Ethiopia also have another interesting achievement called, if I can find it, must be down here, Prestor John. Own and have cores on Alexandria, Antioch, Constantinople as Coptic Ethiopia. So if you could remember this little list down here, we are already going for Alexandria and Antioch. So the only thing we're going to be adding on for also getting Prestor John is Constantinople. Not that conquering Constantinople is any small matter. We probably have to take it from the Ottoman, but those two are pretty obvious things to go for when playing as Ethiopia. So, what's so special about Ethiopia other than it being Coptic, you might ask? Well, Ethiopia is an empire. So that means that we're starting with extra diplomats, we're starting with an extra leader slot. It means that we have an easier time of getting accepted cultures. We actually start with all of the cultures in our cultured group as accepted. All of this culture is already accepted, so if we conquer this land, we don't have to pay for it. So that's one of the things. We are also the strongest nation in this part of Africa. So we're gonna have a pretty easy time of expanding all the way until we hit the Mamluks probably. And we're gonna have a lot of things to expand into down here, so we're gonna have a pretty interesting campaign. But of course, at some point, if we want to do this, as you can see, we have to fight Mamluks for 2 of these. We have to fight QQ, and we have to fight Mercuria, and possibly even to get these things, we'll have to fight the Ottoman. And especially if you want to go for the Prestor John achievement, which I want to, we definitely have to fight Ottoman because we need the city of the world's desire. So we're gonna have to fight all of these Western nations. So we, of course, need to keep up with institutions. And the best way of doing that, you can't do it just by waiting for them to spread to you and for a couple of them to just by just really pumping points into your nation. But another way of doing it, of course, is to get up to the Mediterranean. So my first priority, or the most important part of my strategy, so to say, is to get up and go to war with the Mamluks. Before we can do that, we need to expand our power. But I think that once we have expanded to these nearby countries here, we will be strong enough to face the Mamluks, especially because due to the new and wonderful technology system, we are starting on an equal footing with the Mamluks. And I just want to check out, they have the Muslim technology group. We have the, where do we see it? I think we see it. Yeah, we probably see it here. We have the East African, and they are kind of equatable in power. At different times they will be powerful, and the same with the Ottomans. At different times we will be the most powerful, and they will be the most powerful. But we kind of have the same power level. So the only ones that will consistently be, or will have the ability to be more powerful than us, is once we get into Europe, and hopefully at that point we'll be powerful enough that we can kind of make up for that little difference. Another good thing about getting into the Mamluk lands is that we'll get into Alexandria. Right now we have the Ethiopian trade node, which is a pretty small, pretty weak trade node with nothing going into it. So there's no way of increasing this amount of money except for developing the land, which is probably not that interesting. So we need to expand to somewhere where we can really push some money into. So most likely that's going to be, at least for the start of the game, expanding towards the Gulf of Aden and using that, or possibly more realistically expanding towards Alexandria and using that. So that's another good thing about expanding this way. Other than that, there's a lot of free territory down here in Africa, so we're probably also going to go for some either expansion or exploration ideas pretty early. I haven't quite decided yet. I think we're probably going to end up with exploration just because expansion is an admin idea and other ideas I kind of want to get here. Plus this gives an extra colonist. Expansion though gives the merchant, so we'll kind of have to figure that out as we go along. One thing we don't need to take though, which you usually do when you're dealing with all this Sunni religion, is that you usually need to take religious ideas, because early on in the game, as you can see, we have a really hard time of converting Sunni. But we are Coptic, and because we are the Ethiopians, can start with a Coptic blessing, which means we can get a 1.5% extra missionary strength, which will really help us out with converting. And furthermore, if you look at the Ethiopian ideas, we will also get a missionary for free. And if that isn't enough, then we have the triggered modifier, to which we are pretty close to down here. It's going to be relatively easy for us to grab Mecca. Alexandria is already on our list of things we want to grab, and if we are going to fight our way to up towards this land up here, where we also need some of the centers, then we are also going to grab what's it called, Jerusalem. So we don't even have to grab Rome as one of our triggered modifiers, because we get to grab Alexandria instead. So we can get up to 5 missionaries doing the playing of this game, so that's gonna be pretty nice. And along with that bonus from Coptic faith, we're not gonna have that big problems with religion. So before we go on to actually going to next episode and starting up, let's just go through Ethiopia a little bit. So ideas don't start out too great. We are gonna get land attrition and monthly autonomy change. Monthly autonomy change is not bad. Uh, I'm saying I would say it's pretty good. Monthly autonomy change means that even when you're at war, you will get less autonomy, and also that the land you conquer will be usable by you much quicker. So that's not too bad. But land attrition is kind of so-and-so. 10% less is not really going to help you that much, but it will allow you to be in a war at least a little bit more. Obviously, I would rather have had just a manpower boost, but then we have yearly prestige. Also, it's not the worst thing in the world, but again, it's kind of it's a pretty good one, but I would rather have had something else. Then we have a chance of new heir, and it used to not be that important, but since we can now fire our heirs, or just like say disinherit them, this means that we can re-roll our heirs much more effectively, because we have a much bigger chance of getting a new one. So in theory, this should give us much more, or many more monarch points, especially if we can also get some good royal marriages going, and so we can be pretty sure that we can re-roll every heir at least once or twice to make sure we get good heirs. Then fort defense is kind of meh. It's probably okay if you're playing a multiplayer game, but when you are playing single player, you don't really plan for ever having to defend. You kind of always want to be on the offensive. Then there is diplomatic reputation. It's never a bad thing, but it's probably not going to help us that much either unless we really go for some diplomatic annexing and stuff like that. Then the good stuff starts coming. We're going to get a missionary, really nice, especially when we're in Sunni land here, where we have to, or when we have a very small religion here that we need to expand. We're going to get core creation cost, not as much as some other countries, Ottomans, but at least something, so that's always going to help out. And then finally we're going to get infantry compatibility, so that we know is great. We're not going to get as much, but we're at least going to get something. And then finally we're going to get legitimacy, which is, yeah. We don't even lose it for disinheriting our rulers, so that is kind of so and so. So I think I'm gonna end this intro video here, and then I will continue with actually doing my startup moves and starting up this campaign. So for you, those of you who stuck around to the end of this, thank you for listening to my ramblings. If you enjoyed this kind of intro episode, if you want me to do more of them, please tell me so in the description. If you don't care about it but stuck around anyway for some absurd reason, also tell me that. If you want to help me out, please like this video and subscribe. It's always nice at the beginning of series to get them a little bit boosted on the search records. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the next episode, and until then, have a good day.